Welcome to Zero Love, the podcast that keeps it raw, real, and more importantly, unfiltered. No fluff, no sugarcoating, just bold, unapologetic conversations that cut through the noise of the sports world. Brought to you by Intense Tennis. This is where sports meets honesty like never before, and we dive deep into what really matters. And to kick things off, we've got a great guest who defines Zero Love, Reilly Opelka, one of the most interesting people in the world. He has a passion for art, food, fashion, and startups, and he kind of likes tennis too. So if you're looking for a real conversation with no BS, you're in the right place. I'm JYL Bonet. This is Zero Love. I wanted to start actually talking about Japan because, well, both. Because for me, we're going to get into very little tennis at the end. It's not even tennis. But out of all our years traveling together, you know, the things that really stick out to me are not actually the tennis matches.
Yeah.
I mean,
totally.
it's all the freaking trips, the countries, the things. And Japan was the first one. Like, we'd been to Europe and stuff, but Japan, I think you were 19 when you went, or 20, 19 or 20. That was the first time I was blown away. Life-changing experience going to Tokyo.
Yeah.
And it all started with the elevator.
Totally. The double click button.
Why doesn't it not exist here?
I don't know. Apparently it exists like throughout most of Asia, like Korea, same thing. Yeah.
It should be standard.
It should be standard, but it also, I've never had like a situation in the US where, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, how often do you accidentally click the wrong floor?
It's more when you're around kids. And now that I have a kid, like, I really appreciate it.
Understandable, actually. That's a good point. Very, very fair.
Yeah. So, but also that trip was the first time that me and you also went to a museum.
That's true.
And so, but what I never asked you was what led you to finally like getting interested in going to museums? Like, what got you to the point where like, I want to go to this place. I want to start exploring. Because I felt like after that trip, I mean, it just exploded with everything you were doing, museums and arts.
Yeah, the first one I went to was in, it was, I know it was somewhere in the south of France in like 2017. I think I lost in Aix-en-Provence, and then the next one was in Bordeaux. So it either was in Aix or it was either in Bordeaux. And I had a great time. Not the year, it wasn't the year I won Bordeaux. It was the year like I went with, Diego Muyano a long time ago. And I just remember being so bored in the hotel room. And I'd like finished, I think I'd finished like Stranger Things season 1 or 2 at the time. And then yeah, I had nothing else to do, so I went to a museum. I just like Googled things to do here, and that was one of them. And I really enjoyed it. And then I went to another museum called Pompidou after in Paris, and I really enjoyed it. And then played Wimbledon qualies that year, went to Tate Modern, enjoyed it, and then I kind of yeah, it just Tokyo is the last. We weren't in that many big cities together at that point that were new that I hadn't been to already, in terms of museums.
Yeah, that was one of the few times where jet lag was just so amazing for us because we were actually up early, so we didn't have to worry about freaking practice courts.
Yeah.
And we just spent the entire day in the city.
Yeah.
It was incredible. But so up until that point, it's not like you're enjoying going to museums, but it's not like your art hobby and passion was growing yet. Like that was just getting started.
Yeah, I wasn't collecting. Like, I mean, I didn't have enough money to start buying art yet.
But
that
even
time.
then, you just started getting interested in it, right? Because at first it wasn't about buying it, right? It was just about like, this is amazing. This is cool.
Yep. Yep. Totally. Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say my first time, like, I really enjoyed going to museums. I was so miserable in Europe with like just all the downtime that I got. I ended up.
Complete boredom that actually led you into that. So
Yeah.
when did it even grow from there? Like, had you met Tim yet? When did you meet
No.
Tim?
No, I met Tim like 2020, probably around pandemic time, I'd say.
Okay,
Yeah.
so your interest is already growing big into it.
Yeah, yeah, I met Tim in 2020, and then yeah, I met Kunoth before I met Tim, and Freddie. That was like the first painting I ever got ever was Kunoth. That was like where my collection really started. I'd had some other works, like small works, from some like local whatever artists that I didn't know anything about. I was just buying, but Kunoth was like my first like real painting that I ever got. And then Kunoth introduced me to Tim. He's like, oh, Tim's has a great gallery and loves tennis. I think you'll really get on with him. And then he introduced me to Tim, and then sure enough, Tim and I had a lot in common and got on really well, as you know. And then Tim's really the one that pushed me to. He just knew he knows every museum, he knows every gallery and every collection in every city. And so, when I was traveling and going to tournaments, Tim was sending me stuff to do and setting me up all the time. And then that's when since I met Tim, it really, that's when it really got more serious.
Well, and how much just having those things to do when you were traveling just actually kind of save your life a bit on the road because it's like,
Yeah,
what do you do? There's just days on the road where you just have so much downtime, and now you were able to fill it up with all this other stuff.
yeah, so much downtime. And me, I like to practice early or really late because I don't like having four on a court. So by the time I'm done with practice, like 10:30, we have all day with not much to do. I could get like a gym workout, and practice done and be done with everything by 11.
Yeah.
And then, I have like 7, 8 hours left, and maybe we'd get on the court again at 6 when people were gone. So we had tons of downtime.
Yeah. Well, and then we have to then go to our last trip to Tokyo because that was a food experience.
That was the food experience.
The food there's just no way I've I don't like as far as a trip, that was insane.
Yeah, I can't say I've ever experienced anything like that.
I mean, the airport
Tokyo
sushi,
Fixer. Yeah,
Tokyo,
yeah, even the
yeah,
airport sushi. Yeah. Yeah, we dined like no other, man. I mean, that we had the best. That's about as good as it gets when it comes to sushi, steak, and pizza. Back to back nights, back to back to back.
man, I was so pissed about the pizza because that was the one time
Mm,
I didn't go because,
yeah,
dude, I was dead. I came
yeah,
straight from the plane, straight to the court, like 4 days in a row. I was like, I need a day to just kind of slow
yeah,
down. It's kind of rainy. And then I found out you guys went to the freaking pizza place, and I was sad. I was sad. I
yeah,
deserved it. I didn't go. It's my fault. But
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
was sad.
The pizza place was killer.
Yeah.
Best
But the
pizza in the world.
sushi.
Of course, but you go to Tokyo, expecting to get great sushi. You don't. It's a shock factor of like, there's that element of such shock when you're eating pizza there in Japan. It's one of my favorite things to tell Italians that the best pizza in the world is in Tokyo. It's
Yeah.
just like there's nothing more offensive you could possibly tell it. And obviously I love Italians and I love Italian food. It's Japanese and Italian food for me. Those are the two most important cuisines. And anyway, yeah, I think that is like a massive trigger point, obviously, because they're quite passionate about their pizza and pasta. But it's true, you can't compete the way the Japanese go about everything when they buy into something. Like you just can't compete the way that their supply chain works. They have a tomato farmer that's more passionate about farming tomatoes than the sushi chef is about like it's just insane how dedicated they are.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what led to the airport sushi. It's the same thing. Like you see two guys that even though they're working at an airport and
Yeah.
at a sushi bar, you can tell like this has been their life's work.
Yeah. No, being like a sushi chef in Japan is like being a doctor here in the States. Like if you're like the head sushi chef at your restaurant, yeah, you're balling.
Yeah, that airport sushi was better than probably most sushi I've
Yeah.
ever had in the United States. If not,
Yeah.
I don't want to go say all. I've had some unbelievable sushi. Umi was amazing. It was a
Yeah.
it's just a little different,
Totally.
But yeah, but so I'll pivot and then remind you of the worst trip we ever had.
Yep.
Panama.
Panama, Panama,
You know,
Panama, Panama.
I thought short, like not there because from Panama we went to Houston. I don't think I ever told you this. I think that was the first time. It was pretty short into us working together. I thought you were gonna fire me. I thought
That's funny.
I was like crap. Like we,
Yeah, no, I was just shocked that like that that you guys were like mad at me for tanking because it was so bad. Like I was like, man, I thought you'd be like probably happy that I just lost in on first round Monday in an hour, and we could just get out of there ASAP. I thought you'd be like on board because it was so bad and such a disgusting tournament, and like we were playing on like a cow track. It wasn't even a tennis court.
so okay. Obviously, in the moment, we can't express that. We're glad you tanked and you got to get out. But obviously, when we left and looking back, you could have seriously gotten hurt on those courts. They were dangerous. I mean, those courts were
My whole
dangerous.
goal, literally my whole goal. I remember like telling Jim Lair about the courts when we got there, and he's like, as long as you come out of there like uninjured without hurting your ankle, and you get home relatively quick, it's a successful trip. And I was like, wow, I really shouldn't be here.
Yeah,
Like with a coach and a physio by myself, like it was rough.
no, but the funny part was that was the first tournament Stephanie ever came,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's
Poor
what she got
Stephanie.
to witness in this
Didn't she? I
place.
think she went to the Panama Canal, right?
Yeah, she ended up going to the Pan. No, she had a great time.
Yeah,
She had a great trip. She had a little touristy thing, and then one afternoon we finished early. We all went into the city or the old part, and she had a
yeah,
blast until she saw you play because she never went to a practice or anything. And then she saw you
yeah,
play. It was like 100 degrees, humid like you're in Miami, baking in
yeah.
that old stadium, and
Terrible.
it wasn't even tennis. She's like, "Is this normal?"
Yeah, that was rough. That was a
Yeah.
rough one.
And then you got to Houston and then Miami because then it's what we started off well, but then you go on a 6 match losing streak, and I thought this is it. I'm fired.
Yeah, I lost in
Yeah, it was,
Houston first round. Yeah, I had a lot of first rounds.
yeah, because you had Indian Wells, Houston, that Miami. There was something else somewhere. I was just like, damn, you know.
Yeah,
And then it was just like that. We're in Bordeaux
yeah,
eating McDonald's at a train station,
yeah. That's
which
right.
was some of the best McDonald's we've ever had. And I don't eat fast food. So,
Yep, yep. I remember that one. That was a
and
good one.
here you are winning one of the biggest challengers in Europe, and all we can find to eat because we have to get to the French Open is McDonald's at
Yeah,
the train station.
yeah,
And train station food usually in many other places is an absolute no-go. But that time was unbelievable.
yeah, yeah. Because we had to rush to get to Paris.
Dude, it was miserable. We got in like at midnight, had to go to bed, find practice the next morning. I couldn't. Who would have thought that the guy you beat first round there is like top 50 in the world? Remember in qualies, you played Greek
Yeah,
sport.
yeah. I had a tough one there. Yeah, Greeks poor and yeah. I played some crazy good players in qualies of slams, man. I played Hubie in the qualies of Wimbledon. I played Casper Ruud in the qualies of the Australian. I played Griekspoor in the qualies of the French. Jerry, Nico Jari in the qualies of the French. I played, man, yeah, I'm trying to think. I know there's some more that I'm missing, but I've played some tough matches in like Grand Slam qualies, like top 10 guys, you know?
Well, the Ubi one's crazy because I look back now. It's crazy to also think you had mono,
Yep.
right? So, but I just remember leaving. I'm just like, God, played so bad. This other guy, I mean, he didn't really do anything. That other guy, like, what's going? Turns out, Ubi Urkac, top, 6 player in the world. A couple years later, it's
Yep.
nuts to think about that.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah,
It
and
really is.
but I I when we first started traveling together, I don't know if you remember having this conversation. It was at Indian Wells one time. We were just reviewing a match, and we were just talking about what were you going to do if tennis didn't work out? Because at that time, it's not like, I mean, you were still losing money, right?
Yep.
So, and you were, it's not that you were concerned, but we were just having a conversation like, dude, well, if tennis doesn't work out, it's funny. At the time, you were like, I got nothing. I skipped college. Like, what am I going to do? Not really in the mood to just be a teaching pro. Like, yeah, that's not something that's on my radar. And you were, I wouldn't say concerned, but you didn't know what you were going to do with life after tennis at that point, right? And
Yep.
and there was a thought that, man, maybe should I have gone to college tennis if I knew what I knew now? Because you had said you didn't travel the ITF circuit like some of these other kids to get a true idea of what it was like.
No. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah.
So you had your first real experience. Like I think that's probably the benefit of ITS for kids. Like, all right, what is the life like traveling all over the world?
Yep.
Not everybody can do that, but now it's funny looking back because I don't know if you remember the conversation that we had when you were starting to train, make your comeback, and you had talked about how you weren't that concerned about life after tennis now because of the things you've learned with and the people you've met in startups and art and galleries and restaurants and things like that. Have you ever like reflected on any of that, like how much that changed?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I was always around the same. I mean, I think every tennis player can relate to this, but you're pretty much around like only three or four of the same people on a consistent basis, and that's it from, the age of like 16 till 20. And that's what's pretty crazy about tennis. That's like one of its biggest flaws, I'd say. You spend like time with your coach. As a 16-year-old, you spend time with your coach outside your family, your coach, and like one other player, and like maybe the guy that you do strength training with, and that's you see those three people, and pretty much those three people only for most of the year, and those are like your day-to-day people, and I think that yeah, tennis players don't have the same ability to like, hey, you don't socialize with so many people, and then like a normal kid has so many friends that go to different colleges all over the country and whatever that they're more in touch with. But yeah, for me it was just Tommy, Taylor, and Francis. We were all doing the same thing, so it was hard to like expand elsewhere and see a different side of things because like all my best friends were doing the same exact thing that I was doing.
Yeah. And so if you don't have any exposure to other things, how do you know what to get into, what to learn about?
Yeah,
Because you're just around, you live, and that's the thing. We see so many tennis players. I mean, and they're happy, and they'll stay in tennis the rest of their life, and that's fine. That's if that's what
yep,
they want to do. Everyone has their own path, but it's amazing how these. I can't relate to other sports. I mean, maybe you've spoken to other athletes that know it, but at least tennis players, they can live in their little bubble, even though they're supposedly traveling the world. But
yep,
it's a traveling bubble. They're with the same people everywhere they go.
yep,
So then what happens after tennis if you're around these same people who are also related to tennis? You have no other experience.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and now with everything that you've gotten into, I mean, how necessary do you think? I guess it's different now with NIL, which is very different than when you were playing.
It's different with NIL, but also like it's more of personality type. Like Fritz is total introvert, and he's just like massive gamer and whatnot, and he's made a lot of friends through like his through gaming and streaming and whatnot. And then I'm kind of the opposite. Like I can't really sit in my hotel room at all. Like, um I gotta be. Yeah, I just can't sit and do nothing. I certainly can't sit in front of a screen and play video games. I'll lose my mind. But I think like now in today's day and age, like I said, like you have so many different ways to meet people and like make friends. Like Taylor can make friends being a video gamer. Like back, I always think like, geez, I'm really lucky I'm playing tennis in today's era because if I played during like Jay Berger's era where he tells me how the tour was, I would have lost my mind. I would have like that would have made me go absolutely crazy.
Just traveling, reading with a book, playing chess at the tournament, or playing checkers
Yeah,
at the
you
tournament,
eating
just being
breakfast,
there.
lunch, and dinner in the same room with the same people. Like it's just that's like my biggest nightmare.
Well, yeah, and you think of the stories, for example, like Diego Maradona, like living in like a tent or just sleeping on the floor just so he could play tournaments. My
Yeah,
dad, my dad played the French Open, sleeping in a van in the parking lot. Just got out of the car, went, go played, just
yeah,
at the
it's
tournament site all day long.
pretty cool to be honest. Like, you know, it
Well,
is cool.
there are a lot of positives to that era for sure, right? So there's a lot
Yeah,
less chaotic, a lot more relaxed.
yeah.
Um, but so not like okay, move with everything that you've learned about the startup world and everything. What is your favorite startup right now? Which, by the way, I have to. I think tonight I thought about it because I texted you I was eating pizza before jumping onto this
Yeah,
because, dude, I'm just so freaking tired of cooking, breakfast, lunch, dinner,
yeah.
dishes.
I know. I
I think it's
know.
the perfect plug for the one startup that I know you'd
Yeah,
want to talk
yeah,
about.
yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. It's called Swish. But the founder's name is Shadi, who's a good friend of mine, and he's become a great friend of mine, and we speak often. And it's funny, like if you think of all the things that you do that your parents did the exact same way back in 70s, 80s, it's really insane. Like we board airplanes and like fly, and we spend the same amount of time. It's the same amount of distance, but flight times are the exact same as they were 50 years ago. And the way we fold our clothes and wash and dry our clothes is the same as it's been for a long time. The way we, wash our dishes, the way we cook our food, everything is the exact same. And there hasn't been like any innovation on that. So, like, Shadi sees it, he's like, man, I can't believe it's just lying right in front of me like this. And he wants to, automate cooking. He wants to build a non-humanoid robot that cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for you. And when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Like, there hasn't been any tech evolution in the kitchen since like the microwave in that category,
Yeah,
and
it's nuts.
it's nuts. Like, well, yeah, like you said, it's not only the money that you save; it's the time. Like, Shadi says the average like person will spend 2.5 months on cooking per year. Whether that includes going to the grocery store, um, you know, prepping, chopping, cleaning ingredients, and then like washing post cooking. So it's a big majority of time.
Oh, it's insane. The prep time, especially like now, it's one thing if you're just kind of cooking for yourself because you can just kind of tank some meals and whatever, use paper plates. But like, I mean, I have a kid now, and so and my wife has been gone. You know, she was traveling for work
Yeah,
for a week, and I'm having to make breakfast and lunch. Well, not lunch every day. Weekends he's at daycare, but then at night, and then just doing the dishes, and then I run out of food. But then I still have
yeah,
to work. I still need to sleep. I want to try to find some time to work out and do something. Like I haven't talked to a single human being outside of work. Yeah, I just don't have time. Like
yeah.
I'm spending easily an hour a day, easily just cooking and cleaning. You can argue up to two,
Dude, that's brutal. Yeah.
and yeah, and then I have to go to the
So
grocery store 3 times a week.
yeah, I have I had a the V1 of the Swish robot. V2 is like ready to go now, but pretty much how V1 worked was it was great. Like it's what two guys did with like not much. It's all relative, but not much money to build this. Like they didn't spend. My point is they didn't spend like millions of dollars to build like this V1 robot. But just two guys in like 3 months, the V1 robot was insane. Like I could load eggs into it, and I would so I could load like 3 or 4 eggs in, and like some ham, cheese, and then I could do it at night, and then they have the components refrigerated, and that just prompted to make me like ham and cheese like kind of omelet, and I said I want it by 7:30 a.m. ready to go, and then I go to bed, and then so I'd wake up at 7, shower, and then I'd have this plate and it's ham and cheese omelet ready at like 7:30 sharp. Like how nice that is just for me, just from a breakfast standpoint.
That's insane.
Yeah, just that meal alone for me is great. But then, I was using it as well to have like, so then I'd eat and then I'd load it with like, before practice, I'd load it with like steak. And it makes really good steak teriyaki. And so I'd have like steak teriyaki for lunch. But I would load it before I'd go to practice, and then I'd tell my phone like when I'd finish practice, like steak teriyaki, you know, start it up, and then I'd drive home, and then it'd be ready for me. It's like, wow, I was like really living in the future for once. I was like, this is really nuts. Like putting raw ingredients into this thing, letting it's refrigerating it, keeping it there, and then by the time I get home, I have a warm like cooked meal.
That today, probably more than I have in a very long time, I was like, I need this thing. I'm so sick of it. But unfortunately, like a lot of crap that you're going to order and delivery,
Yeah,
maybe it arrives cold or it's a lot of junk food or
yeah,
whatever. And I mean, I want to control some of the ingredients to not eat like so much crap. So
yeah, yeah. You shouldn't have to pay more to feel good. Like you shouldn't have to like and that's kind of the other nice part about this. Like you can get fresh, simple, clean ingredients that I'm putting in there myself
yeah, but
that normally I would never do. I would be Uber Eatsing off of whatever, and it'd be processed, and there'd be seed oils, and there'd be all sorts of stuff in there. But now I'm like, yeah, I can actually take control of that.
yeah, well, I'm all seeded oil upped right now. I just crushed a pizza, but I
I
felt
love
like
I,
I
I love
deserved
seed
it.
oil. Yeah, seed oil is great.
Yeah. So, but you
I like
mentioned
high
planes.
fructose corn syrup, man. It's the best.
Well, that's what makes the Coke and the ketchup, right?
Totally.
Yeah, I have both. I have the healthy ketchup and the bad ketchup. And it's funny
I
because
don't.
my son's figured it out, but
Of
he
course he
just
has.
goes, yeah, he's like, no, not that one. I want the other one. It's
Yeah.
just, I mean, he's 3. He already knows.
Yeah.
High fructose corn syrup. Give it to me.
Yep. It's the best.
Yeah. You
Best.
mentioned planes. Did you see that the boom plane, the supersonic plane that they're working on?
Yeah. 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 I saw
I
that.
I mean, it
Interesting,
looks
huh?
like yeah, they've had some test runs with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's these are the things like if we already have like we're seeing now like real innovation in terms of like self-driving cars, and it's really amazing how crazy that is. Uber's definitely the best innovation I've experienced in my time. That's really changed my life. And then yeah, I think like there's a few categories. Everyone's like, "Oh, I'm so impressed with tech. I'm so like everyone's like amazed. Isn't the world moving so fast?" And I always thought the opposite. I'm like, no. I'm like, no. There's so many things that if you think about it, that we're doing the exact same that our grandparents and our great grandparents did. And I think that the time's come for a lot of those things to change. And I think it'll happen relatively soon now.
Yeah, yeah. For the longest time, we went nowhere. Now we can start to say we can see the light, and things are starting to change, like with Chat GPT and just AI and stuff like that. As far like,
Totally. Yeah, like I'm gonna be so jealous when I'm, like 50 years old and hearing about, if I'm ever like close to a tennis player that's a 20-year-old then or a 25-year-old, pro that I don't know, let's say I'm coaching a guy someday and he's like, yeah, I gotta, yeah, it's like a 2-hour flight to Paris and we're in Florida. I'm gonna be like so jealous. Like,
oh
man, this guy can fly to the French Open in 2 hours. I had to fly 9 hours and cram into a business class seat that I still didn't fit in.
yeah, yeah. Well, on the fitting inside, nobody's going to be able to say they had it worse than what you've gone through. But I mean, when I had to go play ITFs, I mean, it was way worse. I mean,
Yeah,
I was like Jay. We had books. That's all I had. The TV channels in the room only had 15 channels. Thank God I spoke Spanish, so at least I could understand some of it. But all the shows were like crap. And then I had to pay to use a computer for 30 minutes to communicate with a family, a girlfriend, a friend, anything. I had to pay 30 minutes
dude.
and then not talk to anybody. So if I didn't have friends at the tournament, I was
Yeah,
done. I couldn't FaceTime anybody.
dude, I would have lost my mind.
Well, I
Yeah,
did. I think that's why I sucked and went to college.
yeah, yeah. Good call. I would have done the same.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I was not like some of these players that could just live and be at the tournament all day and just live and breathe tennis. I needed something social, and I had none of that when I was on the road.
Yeah,
I struggled. So, but well, you mentioned your favorite startup, but I have to ask you this because it's funny how I'm the one that's born and raised in Miami, but I go to you for recommendations
yep,
on where to eat.
yep.
but and before I get there, you know what's so funny is how like I see the aloe yoga stuff everywhere now. I mean, it's just like
Yep.
it's got big. I think it was like 5 years ago. I'd asked you. I said, "Hey, I need like a gift for my wife. It's anniversary, Valentine, whatever. I forget the holiday." And I'm like, What's something like on this? He doesn't have any yoga pants, whatever. She's like, dude, don't get Lulu, get aloe. I'm like, what? Aloe? What is that? Like, I'm going to spend $150 on a name I've never heard of in my entire life, and now it's everywhere. It's hilarious.
Yeah. 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 They crushed it. Jeez, they
Yeah,
really did crush it.
they blew
Yeah.
up big. I was like,
Yeah.
what is Riley? And you were, well, and you were right. You saw him getting big. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yep.
dude, restaurants in Miami, but you
Yep.
can't name Coat. You can't because
Yep.
that's the obvious one, right?
Yep. Yeah, if you want fine dining, Shingo is nuts. Sushi. Um, Surf Club, nuts. These are like fine dining, like really, really good stuff. And then a couple hole in the walls, like barbecue. There's a place called Hate Mondays, like South Miami. Insane. There's a place called Fritanga Caña Brava. It's like
Wow.
Nicaraguan. It's a hole in the wall, but proper. Like, you'll have a great, great meal. And then there's a place, a new New York restaurant, new to Miami, New York restaurant, opened up in Design District that I'm really excited about. Um, and it's a Japanese restaurant, but they only make like these cool hand rolls. And I actually just went yesterday for the first time, and it's really good. I'm blanking on the name. Jeez, why am I? It's one of the better ones in New York. Actually, I think we went there maybe one year at the U.S. Open, JY. Anyway, it'll come to me. There's another one in Design District called Yasu Tanaka. Great sushi. But yeah.
Have you tried? There's like I love pizza. We talked about pizza, Japanese pizza. It's my junk food. If I have one thing to go to, because I mean,
Yep.
I don't consider burgers junk food because you can get good quality burger, good meat. It's not really junk food. But have you tried that pizza place that went like big in Miami? I guess they make it. I think it's like Winwood or something. They went big on social media. Like I think they
Is
make
it
the pizza fresh.
is it Miami Slice?
I think so.
There's Miami Slice. There's La Natural.
No, no, no. I think it's
Um,
Miami Slice.
yeah, Miami Slice is good. Miami Slice is good, but there's nothing like the New York stuff, and
Yeah.
yeah, and also yeah, proper Italian pizza is great. Just we don't really have that, you know. Yeah, we don't. Miami's still lacking, in my opinion, in the pizza category.
Yeah, yeah, it's not known for pizza. All the other
No.
stuff, the fish stuff, they knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. But so then, what about New York? And I'll quickly go. Okay, Coke, Doc, done. But
Yep.
now move on. Which Coke? Okay, I have to say it is. Can we just talk about that for really quick? It is a mind blowing experience.
Yeah, it is.
It
It
is something
is.
you just can't understand it. You've heard me say it too much to people, but for anyone
Yeah.
that wants to check out something that is just
Yeah, it's unique.
it's so
It's
unique. It's
yeah.
one of these
Yeah, it's
things that
killer.
I'm not even going to say what it is because if you talk about it, you're like, what? It's not.
Yeah.
It's hard to really explain for somebody why they should go. It's just go and just go. That's it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you'll love it.
Yeah, it is pretty silly.
Yeah,
I'd say
that's a
that's
good.
a good word to describe it. Yeah, New York. There's some, like again, classics like fine dining per se always comes to mind as like one of the best in the country. There's a restaurant called Danielle that's unbelievable. There's a restaurant that I love called Crown Shy. The chef, I was a huge fan of James Kent. He tragically actually recently passed away, and he kind of is one of the biggest legends in New York, like food scene. He's so young, but he left a massive footprint. Like changed New York dining downtown forever. Like financial district, downtown New York was just known as like corporate, without much to do, without much in terms of like eating, like really fine dining. This guy opened up the best restaurant downtown, um, and then that was Crown Shy, and then he opened up another restaurant, that same building on like the 70th floor, called Saga. Got two Michelin stars. Changed, honestly, changed downtown dining in New York forever. Like this guy's a real legend. Those are two of my favorite spots in the city as well. For bagels, I like this place called Apollo. That's kind of my go-to. Yeah, that's pretty much it that comes to mind.
You know, a bagel place is good when somebody names a bagel place as like a top place to go. Like no one talks
Yeah,
about bagel places as something memorable. So
yeah,
that's how good it must be. Like that it sticks out in your mind.
it sticks out. Yeah, it really is that good. Yeah, it's that
Yeah.
good.
You guys opened up in Vegas already, right?
Coat is opening in Vegas end of this year.
And
Yeah,
this year. Okay.
yep. That's gonna
Okay.
be
Because you were there for an opening of
yeah. It's
something,
so
or was
yeah.
that
So
it?
it's opening. Yeah, it's opening at the Venetian. It's kind of the announcement during F1 in November. So we went, and it's gonna be insane. Like this space is nuts. It's where the old Barney's was. It's two floors. It's huge. The build out is like, man, these guys killed it. Like the renderings that we've been seeing is, yeah, I think it's one of the craziest restaurants.
Yeah. Have you figured out where you're going to live when you're done playing?
New York, between New York and SF.
San Francisco.
Yeah, I like SF.
Okay. Is that just because it's the city or the people you've met there and everything that's happening there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, SF is the most important companies in the world have come from SF. The best talent, I think some of the best minds, the best thinkers in the world live in and grow in SF. Like Stanford's producing, some of the smartest people ever. Berkeley, that's where all the venture capital funds still are. And yeah, I think that's still the epicenter of the world, I'd say. In terms of like what makes the world spin, look at all the big all the go look at the top 10 companies in the world and look where they started,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and they're still there. They pay all those crazy high taxes, but they still want to be there.
Yeah, yeah, or look where they're funded. Yeah, I mean the talent's insane.
Yeah.
And also like Stanford put in this insane like robotics lab, and automation definitely is the future. Obviously, it's still here. It's not even the future. It's the present, but it's only growing. So you're gonna see like some of the top roboticists are coming out of Stanford. They're pumping out these wizards like by the dozen every week.
Yeah. Well, and
So
there's this it's interesting how they went so long in the news about how bad San Francisco was and the living and the crime and everything. I mean, it's gotten better, right?
I
No?
mean, it's still rough.
Yeah.
It's still SF. Like yeah, it's got a long way to go. There's still
Yeah.
a lot of crime, but it doesn't. That's what the beauty of it. It's the exact opposite of LA. Some of the conversations you'll hear in like the LA art world it's pretty unbearable. Um, these are not artists, of course. These are like mainly collectors and like art advisors and art curators. Like you've just never heard, anything like they'll just throw words around like, oh my God, yeah, there's paintings that they're like ridiculously cheap. Like I think one of them was auctioned for 1 million. It's like, listen yourself.
Yeah.
And in SF, it's the opposite. Like people there, like fake that they like don't have it kind of thing. LA, a guy will have like a couple $1 million and he'll go buy like $500,000 car and have like a $500,000 watch and a $500,000 painting, and that's it right there, and he'll tell you all about it and you'll see it all over his Instagram. Where in SF, you'll be like, with it at a guy's house having dinner, and he could be the founder of a $10 billion company. He's driving a Prius and living like going to work every day and no fancy watch, got an Apple Watch on, and just ready to like go to work and become one step better. And I think that is what I really love about SF. Like people are really into like the process. They're not looking to flash anything. They're looking to actually problem solve.
Yeah.
And it's SF is the exact opposite of LA.
Yeah.
And they're so close to each other. It's like 1 hour flight.
It is amazing how different of a planet it is. You land in LA versus San Francisco. It's a different planet.
Different like people in SF, like there's some minds there that are really like those are the guys that really run and can control the world. If you think about it, like look where Apple started. Look what we're talking on. Look what products I have in my hand. Look what you have. You look. It's just insane when you really think about. It's just, and these all came from guys that really like were quite rebellious, kind of challenged authority or challenged what traditionally was available to them. So in some sense, they're a lot like artists, but yeah, it couldn't be more. They have similarities in the art world, like LA art world versus like the SF tech scene, and but they couldn't be more opposite in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well, I mean, what San Francisco is, so one of the biggest reasons why, like I'm working for the Intense Tennis League I've mentioned to you about, was because, I mean, man, we've been around so many people that just LA talk about big ideas and all these things, and they talk a big game, and nothing ever happens. But if you ever come across them, they have this big idea, right?
Of course.
And this was one of the first times in my entire life I actually came across somebody who had an idea that was nothing. It was literally just an idea. And yet it seemed like every time I spoke to them, they were actually doing something. Like I remember when we were at the Atlanta Open, they actually had a tent there. I'm like, what?
Cool.
Like, oh, you're actually doing this. You're putting marketing funds. You're actually trying. I'm like,
That's cool.
that is cool. They're doing something. That's what San Francisco is like. They're just going to do it. Like now, nobody else around them knew they were doing it because they don't need to tell the whole world until it's ready to show the world, right?
Yeah.
That's what San
Yep.
Francisco is. They're getting it done as opposed to talking about it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. They're problem solving. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Which talk about problem solving. The day on the train from Geneva to Antwerp.
Yep. I gave you a Red Bull.
The day that Red Bull saved my life.
Yep. Yep.
Was there a worse day I ever had in my life, like around you?
No, you were really crabby. You
That
were
was
just
it. But
you
what
were
was?
a cranky guy, man. You were hungry. You were not caffeinated. You were just a cranky guy.
I was hungry. We were lost. We were going to get in
Yep.
really late,
Yep.
and
You were
you know
tired.
me and my sleep and my stupid routines.
Yep.
We
I
don't
remember.
speak the language, and because of COVID, they weren't serving coffee. That was my whole bet because
Yep.
every European train serves espresso on a train,
Yep. No
and
coffee.
I'm like, look, I'm going to be totally calm. I'm going to get on that train. Yeah, I'll be late, but I'm going to get a couple double espressos and I'm going to make it. And I come back from wherever their little bar is at the train, and I just don't say a word for like
Yeah.
45 minutes. And you got Wolf, who's in one of those days that just keeps talking.
Yep. He has those
Yeah.
days. He's so consistent with like he's never had a bad day in his life.
No, he's happy as a freaking clam,
Yeah.
no matter what we're doing, as long as
Totally.
tennis is involved in some form.
Yeah. He's the best.
And it's not a good matchup when you have somebody really happy and somebody in a really bad mood.
Yep.
And it was only a matter of time and then you pulled out. That was the second time actually Red Bull saved my life. I was just tired when we landed in Japan and you gave me a Japanese Red Bull.
Yeah. The Japanese Red Bull hits, man. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was different. So
Man, I'm like so bitter that I'm not like a Red Bull athlete anymore because I just love Red Bull. So it was actually like I was actually like normally I really don't give a shit about if someone drops me and like I don't know, it hasn't happened much. Let's say actually I think Red Bull's the only one that dropped me. But I was pretty I was kind of butthurt because I just love it and they're a great company.
well, the best part about the sponsorship too from my end was fielding all the questions from everybody that couldn't believe that you were drinking a Red Bull on the court because
Yeah.
they're like, what's he doing? Drinking it? What? Like, that's so
Yeah.
bad for you. It's like,
Yeah.
can't be that bad. He's doing all right.
Yeah.
He's not
Works
chugging it.
great.
He's not funneling it.
Works great, man.
Yeah.
Tastes
But
great, works great.
yeah, it's still, and it was hilarious when they would want to find you for it,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
But
yeah. And now they like it's on the court everywhere.
well, yeah, and the reason was always because we can't have a competitive drink as anything, and you're like, okay, well then put another energy drink in there, and
Give me another energy drink. They didn't.
but
They
they
never
never
did.
had another energy drink.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got to be careful. I'm not. You're not allowed to talk bad about the ATP anymore. They like changed some rules in their rule book. So after Dallas, because they
Yeah,
probably want to find me.
did you end up getting fined yet for that?
No, I actually didn't because an ATP. I think because someone asked me about it. Someone asked me about what I thought about the ref. Like I'm just answering the question.
Yeah.
I just got asked, so I answered. But no, I got fined for like my audible obscenity, but I didn't get fined for what I said in the press conference after.
How much do you think a part of that is the fact that because they're supposed to be so silent, that it really stands out even more? I mean, because
Yeah,
obviously in the NBA and the NFL, like, dude, they're screaming that stuff like all the time, right?
yeah,
And we have like one of the rules that we've removed in the Intense League is like fans can say whatever they want, they can talk whatever they want, they can
nice.
do anything, right? So what would be interesting to find out is, do players get distracted if they're just used to the noise? Like it's just kind of blended in, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, if that's the rule and the rule is like, and you get used to it, then yeah, I'm all for it. Like I'm not like, but I'm all for it. And if they do that, I can also chirp back.
You should be able to an extent.
Totally.
Obviously, there's a line both parties shouldn't cross, but if
Yep.
they can talk to you, you should be able to talk to them,
Exactly.
right? That's the thing I never understood. So, yeah,
This was a this was a topic I was discussing the other day. It's interesting how tennis seems to be able to generate like this disparity, and it kind of happens. And when you think about it, in like a lot of other categories of the world, but there's a larger gap currently between the number one player in the world in terms of level. In terms of level, there's probably a larger gap between the number one player in the world and the number seven player in the world than there is between the seventh best player in the world and the 80th best player in the world. So if you look at like, let's say number seven is Casper Ruud, who's an unbelievable tennis player. Guy almost was number one in the world. He's like everyone always talks about how good he is on clay. He made finals of the U.S. Open when it was like the fastest surface, the fastest the U.S. Open had probably been in a long time. So clearly the guy's just good on everything. But that being said, if Yannick Sinner plays Casper Ruud 7 times, let's say, a majority of Yannick's matches are on hard. Let's say, he plays like 75% of his matches on hard. So using that same, you know, ratio, if they play 75% of those matches on hard, because that's like the norm for Yannick, how many matches out of 10 does Casper Ruud win?
yeah, probably zero,
Yeah, maybe one, maybe,
maybe.
maybe. And then if Gabriel Diallo, who's like 80 in the world, plays right now, if let's say he plays um Casper Ruud 10 times,
I could see him getting a win or two,
probably two, maybe even three.
maybe. Yeah, depending on how fast the court is. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Like there's a larger gap in level between the number one and the seventh best guy, between the seventh and the 80th best guy.
And it's probably been that way for like 25 years.
Correct. Yeah. I was like, man, and I was thinking, same with Novak and Ferrer. Like they could play 10 times and Novak's going to win 10 times.
I mean, I hate to bring it to, well, maybe I don't, but it is an interesting point. Like, to bring it back to like the intense league, the team league, because that's the part with tennis. Like for me, I tune out a lot because if I'm not watching outside of like Sinner, Alcaraz, and Djokovic playing each other right now, like I just don't care to watch. Like because
Yep.
it's just you kind of know when if they play any of those other guys, Sinner's going to win, Alcaraz is going to win, Djokovic's probably going to win, right?
Yep.
So you're the only guy I'll watch because I mean there's just a different. It's different.
Yep.
So if we put him in a team environment where, okay, it's still like Sinner can have his blowout, but it's still the team, right? Like LeBron can score his 45 or 50, they can still lose, right?
Yeah, that makes
Because of the
sense.
team aspect.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I think
Yep.
that's what happens in tennis. Like some of the ratings are so bad in the earlier matches because it's like, why am I going to wait till 1
Yep.
a.m. to watch Alcaraz clearly just dominate somebody 2-2 and 2?
Yep.
So I'll do that when like Alcaraz plays Djokovic. I'll get up at 5 a.m. to watch that because that's worth it.
Totally. You're gonna see some of the best tennis you'll ever see in your life. So
Yeah.
yeah, I get it. No, that makes sense.
Or you just go watch two guys, 80 in the world, that you don't know, but you love tennis, and they're going to have a great battle, and you won't really know who's better, and you're not going to know what's going to happen until it's over.
Correct.
But they don't put those guys on TV, so nobody gets to see that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what this league can do. But, I think back to one time when one of the actual memorable moments for me, tennis related, it wasn't actually within the tennis, Toronto Masters, when, I mean, you had to run to the semis.
Yep.
First of all, what a brutal
Finals.
run. Oh, sorry, finals. It's because I want to talk about the semis. I was thinking about the
Yep.
semis. What a brutal run to the finals for a Masters, right? I mean, you
Yep.
start off with Kyrgios first round. Um,
Yep.
but, what stood out to me was, so I don't know if you remember this at all. I guess for me, like, I was getting bothered by it because it makes sense. Most people don't want to watch bot tennis. I mean, you know that. Sorry.
Yep.
But so everybody you play against, and especially that week, like it pissed me off that they were going for Kyrgios. Like everybody wanted Kyrgios to win, yet he was not being the friendliest guy to the
Yep.
ref and to the crowd. And yet every point he won, it's like they loved the show. And I'm like, there are kids there in the stands. Like, I mean, this is kind of like, I get that it's a show, but there's a limit. You still want that guy to win. Okay, fine.
Yep.
Then Dimitrov. Okay, everybody likes Dimitrov. Then
Yep.
you played Lloyd Harris. Nobody was on that court because they didn't have fans back there. Then Bautista Agut. Everybody wanted you to win. But the Tsitsipas match was the first one that, like, kind of halfway through, I just felt like the crowd actually wanted you to win more than Tsitsipas. But I'm like, okay, like, I wasn't like that into. I think you lost the first set. I got pissed because I really thought Tsitsipas took the that was during his like dad coaching and everything.
Yeah.
He takes like a 10-minute timeout. I'm like, this is a joke. Dad's not in there. He's in the locker room with him. I was
Yeah.
pissed. So I really wanted you to win. And then, but you win that match, and you actually got a standing ovation at the end of it.
Well,
You don't remember that, do you?
no. I'm used to being hated on.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so that's for me. To me, I was like, all right, great. He won. We're in the finals, and I'm walking out, and you're on stadium court, and I'm like, you finally got the standing ovation.
That's funny.
That for me, I was literally almost in tears because of how happy I was. Because for
Yeah,
me,
that's funny.
dude, nobody sees the work that you put in.
Yeah.
It's the one thing anybody can ever ask me about, and it's like, look, I don't care what you see in the match, TV, he's upset, lost a game,
Yeah.
like the work you put in to be there.
Yeah. I don't get like I have no problem. Like most people in tennis, are disgusted with me. And I couldn't really give a fuck less about. Yeah, I don't care. But the funny part to me is the only thing that I do that I will like kick back on when someone says something stupid. If I was a foot shorter, I'd be so much better at tennis. I'd be unbelievable at tennis.
Yeah,
I'm kind of fast for 7 foot 230, like whatever. Like if I had a lower center of gravity, I think I'd be unbelievable. And I think I'd be way better. The average height of the top 10 is 6'2". I'm 10 inches above the top 10 average top 10 height. And like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's a huge disadvantage to be 7 foot tall. Israel always says the same thing. Like Israel's always like, dude, I laugh when people are like, oh yeah, if you were 6 foot, you'd be working at Home Depot. And John's like, like pretty clutch, pretty good at figuring stuff out, like pretty good under pressure, pretty good thinker, like pretty good mind. Think I'd be all right, And like people like really don't get that. And when they usually like you can tell when someone, not to be judgmental, but when someone says that, they're either like really unsuccessful at whatever they do, or like pretty even like below the pack average, or just really dumb.
Yeah, they
Because
did.
anyone that's really good at anything, has like pride in what they do at anything, will know that, like, especially in sport, like, nothing's that easy anymore.
No.
Like, there's a lot of people in the world. There's a lot of people that have a lot of resources, and a lot of people do what they want to do and what they love to do. And like, tennis is one of those that it's quite tough. There's no shortcut around being good. And yeah, ball comes back. Guys are really, really good at returning serve. The
Well, it's
service box
yeah.
is not that big. A lot of balls come back.
Well, and with the way they've slowed things down more than ever, right? And
Totally.
that's why I love it when somebody's like, "Oh, this if it just gets to a tiebreak, hold." I'm like, you understand? Odds are he can't lose 1 point on his serve. One, he
Yeah.
can't lose one, right?
Yeah.
So like, think of how much pressure the people don't think about that,
Yeah.
and they
I
don't.
get it. Yeah, I totally get it's not fun to watch. I will never make an argument as to like why it's fun to watch, but I will always defend that it is certainly not easy.
Well, yeah, well, and how much harder? Forget one, the game is because the court is so much smaller for you. Everything is
Yeah.
smaller for you, but then also how much work you have to put in just to be able to play, just to maintain your body is significantly harder, right?
Yeah.
Because you're how much you
More
have to
weight,
travel.
more change of direction. Yeah. Higher center of gravity. Yeah, it's everything. Playing,
Yeah,
I don't fit. I don't, I'm grinding, cramming into a car right before I to the head of the courts before I warm up to play my mat. Yeah, everything it's difficult. It's
yeah.
totally difficult.
Would you say? I think that the two things that were going to get you to retire from tennis were what was it? The warm up and then gripping rackets.
It was re-gripping rackets, and it was yeah, like the warm up slash, like, particularly like when a guy is warming up his own volleys and I have to like hit to him when he's volleying. Because like I don't want to hit him, so I go slow, and then I go slow and I'm missing every ball, and then I feel stupid. And yeah,
Yeah. No, like with the warm up. I remember when you had to play when you were playing 11 a.m. matches, dude. This was insane. You were playing like 11 a.m. matches, first up in Europe, right?
yep,
But we're still showing up at the tennis. And I remember in Rome. Remember we had to like find out like, well, when's dining, because you needed. So we showed up still. I think I remember 7:30 for an 11 a.m. match.
yep,
But because you were there so early, you were doing
yeah.
like
I
an
need to
hour
eat.
and 15-minute. Yeah, you needed two meals because breakfast was closed at the hotel.
Yep,
It didn't open until 7.
yep,
And fortunately, because it was COVID times, I was traveling with oatmeal. So I went to the coffee machines and
yep. That's
heated
right.
up water just straight through the machine to give you oatmeal so that you could have breakfast while you
Yep,
had your hour and a half warm up. But then you needed to hit and then eat and then re-warm up because that's what you had to do for your body. Like you can't just do a 15-minute warm up and then just go play.
yep,
And
yep.
like that's exhausting. Like to do that
Totally,
a lot. You
totally.
know, yeah, and then when we talk about like that year, the Sissipas year, that's when you had, dude, that run of. I mean, you had a rough stretch of tournaments, right?
Yeah,
So that's why I was like, the work you had put in that
yeah,
year to we're always trying to figure it out, tinker this, tinker that. I mean, it's funny that the thing that stood out was we tinkered the warm up,
totally. Yeah,
right?
we
I
did
think
everything
you started
backwards.
warming up serving first,
Yeah,
and it was only because it was
yeah,
so hot that you were
yeah.
just so sweaty that it wasn't really anything scientific. So you
No,
just serve first, but then we just did movement stuff. We didn't act. It was, but yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, and then I think
yeah.
back. What were you Bulgarian squatting at one point? Like single leg Bulgarian squat? Wasn't it like 300 per leg or something?
No, no, no. But I was moving some good weight. Yeah, I moved some good weight on the Bulgarian.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
insane. So
yeah, yeah. I was moving some pretty heavy weight on the single leg Bulgarian. Well, I never got to 300. No, not even close. But
there was
I
a
was in the
stupid
twos.
high number when you were
Yeah,
crushing it at one point.
yeah. I was in the 200s for sure, which is pretty.
That's insane.
For a big guy with a high center of gravity, it's like, yeah, it's a long way down and a long way up. That's what. But I have to be able to do that because I have more, I have more mass to control and change of direction and whatnot. Like, that strength is necessary to keep me from getting injured.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, look, man, I think it's this has been perfect. It's been nice to
sweet.
kind of reminisce a little bit,
I
and
know, man. Fun, really good times.
we had a lot of times there.
Totally.
All right, man. This is great. Good luck
All right.
with it. Was it Indian Wells next?
Indian Wells next. Yes, sir.
Enjoy it.
I will. I
All right,
sure
man.
will.